Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and I am back. I had to drive through a blizzard to get here, but I've made it safely, and it looks like all the videos I pre-uploaded to show while I was gone also made it online in the correct order at the right time. So I'm quite happy about that, but it is certainly nice to be home and to be able to start recording videos and playing ships. 6.2 is now out. Fortunately, I've also found a way, or not found a way, I kind of looked it up, but I now know how to keep the old clients, so replays from 0.61 are still valuable to me. I can still record them. This, in fact, is one of them. And this one, I'm driving the Tier 9, quote-unquote, premium US battleship, the Missouri, the Mighty Mo. The grind took forever, but I'm there. I resisted just clicking and spending money. I ground out all 750,000 free XP just by playing games. So it can be done, and I promise it's gonna be worth the wait. And you'll notice ahead of me, a couple of the ships start shooting each other, but that doesn't really matter. So while myself and my teammate Flying Goomba work our way over to A here, I'm just going to inform you on a couple things. 1,000 subscriber mark. I've hit it. It was actually before I left, which kind of surprised me. I wasn't expecting to get there until sometime while I was gone. And I put it out to the subscribers as to what they'd like to see as kind of a giveaway. I do it to thank you. Without people subscribing and watching my videos, there's no real point to them. You know, you make this channel as much as I do. So the consensus seems to be a lot of small prizes rather than one or two big ones. So I'm going to try to spread love around. I'll figure out, what I intend to give away, and then I'll make an announcement, and expect that probably sometime end of this week, early next week. The other thing I'd like to announce is I'm going to be on the Warships podcast. I believe next Thursday on the 16th is when it's being recorded. I don't know exactly when it's going up, but you can be sure that I will be letting you guys know as well. I know pretty sure I've talked about them as well here before, and it's a podcast I really enjoy listening to. There's been some really informative information on it, and I'm really looking forward to being featured on an episode along with Trebser, so maybe some answers to some of the questions we have. Anyways, finally, I've made it over to Alpha, so it's time to get serious and really test the mettle of Missouri. And, well, beyond some cosmetic differences, there isn't a whole lot difference between the Missouri and, oh my god, 3 Citadels. Finish off that IO in a quick hurry. I guess the Mighty Mo doesn't like her sister ships. So the main difference that the Missouri brings is the radar. And it is so nice. I've played probably 5 or 6 games on this ship now, and being able to sail towards a smoke and know you can detect what is in there it's just a good feeling. Now, I popped my radar just to figure out where that Fletcher is, and based on his position, I thought I was safe. You can see the torpedo indicator. I know they're there. I know I can't dodge them. And at this point, I'm just trying to run as fast as I can to avoid as many. And I'm fortunate that the only one that hits me doesn't start a flood. And in the meantime there, I managed to get a shot into that Neptune, another Citadel, big chunk of damage as my secondaries go to work on that Fletcher. Now it's worth to note that I do have Steven Seagal as my captain on this ship because it's the only thing that's appropriate. And yep, about to drive into a couple more torps. Eat another one. Fortunately, the first never had me flooding, so I'm able to repair that, hit the repair party, and now I wish I still had my radar. I take a blind shot into the smoke based on the fire, and they look like they kind of come from where the tracer is, but clearly I missed, and that is an area I definitely have a long way to go. There's some battleship captains out there who you swear you were just lit like normal. They're that accurate, but it's a skill, and you have to develop it to be able to hit ships firing out of smoke. And, I get lucky once in a while, most times when something's on low health, but beyond that, I'm not too great at it. So I line up the Ibuki, as does Goomba, and, well, between my Citadel and his hit, we absolutely nuke that Japanese cruiser. And, well, it's a bit of a shame because he's going to get away and harass us for quite a large chunk of this battle. You can see he's got his repair party going, and I'm waiting for my rounds. I'm backing up. I'm wanting to capture A. We're ahead on the kills, but the enemy team's got the caps right now, and that's always concerning. I fire. The rounds are looking decent as Goomba nukes that Neptune, finishing him off, and I take about half of the Ibuki's health. Not exactly what I wanted, but at least it was some more damage. So just moving to kind of overall discussion on the map for a second here, you'll notice pretty much the entirety of my team has come down to Alpha. We've cleared the flank out, killed the couple ships that were here. Meanwhile, 4 of our ships went up to the north. 2 died, and 2 have been holding a little further back and have kept themselves alive. And that's really important. These guys are going to be able to just mess around up here and delay the enemy team for quite some time, letting all of us that went to the south, get up in speed and get back and help. And I really actually feel our team has quite the advantage here. We've killed all the enemy destroyers. That is a massive blow to the enemy team. And then on top of that, we've cleared a flank. Nothing is beside us or behind us. But as myself and Goomba come out to the south here, the rest of our team comes to the north, we're going to have some, multiple arcs of fire on the same target. And doing that means that target has to pick, kind of the one thing it maximizes its armor towards, and just accept the other damage it takes. And a lot of my play in World of Warships is focused around keeping enemy ships to one side of my vessel. If you can keep everyone kind of on one arc, well, you can maximize your armor and minimize the chance that they're getting citadels. Particularly in battleships, it's when you get caught off guard by a cruiser or another battleship and allow it to shoot you in the side that you really start eating damage. So right now I know that Ibuki is somewhere in the south. It just got spotted again, but I'm focused on this Izumo. And you can see I'm not directly nose in. I think there's a few too many people who maybe think going perfectly bow in is the best way to maximize armor. But the reality is you want, 10-15 degrees off the bow. Now I start to turn here because I'm afraid of the torpedoes, and I'm definitely going to get lucky. You can see the Izumo shells come in. Here come the Tirpitz shells. They land, but they don't hit particularly hard. 5,500 damage, I can live with that. Tier 9 battleship, I've got a good hit point. More importantly, I didn't need any torpedoes, and I'm not flooding. So with the torpedo threat gone, I start turning, getting my bow back in as I get a citadel on that Izumo, and I'm pretty confident that that went into one of her gun casements. Just looking at where the shells landed, I don't think her hull was quite flat enough for me to go through hull and into the citadel. So when you look at the Izumo, you can see those big rings around the base of the turret. I'm thinking one of my shells just hit them pretty much perfectly flat on, and that's where I got the damage. I fire the front 2 turrets and get another 9,000 damage. Friendly torpedoes there. Finish that Izumo off, so now I can fire my rear gun at this Tirpitz. And I just kind of take a speculative shot here. Now, I talk a lot about communication when you're playing in a division, and I definitely failed to communicate my plan here. I want to go to the north. I don't see any advantage in going to the south and trying to chase things. I really want to secure these ships up to the north, make sure they can't loop around and start finishing targets off. And I just failed to tell Goomba that. So he's going to go off towards that Tirpitz. The Ibuki is finally dead, but the Ibuki lit a lot of fires on him, and if you look back over my shoulder, you can see Flying Goomba is hurt quite a bit. He's got almost 30,000 hit points, but he's burned damage controls, he's used a bunch of repairs, and that doesn't put him in the best place to be chasing down a Tirpitz. Now, some might say, oh, but it's just a Tirpitz, but the reality is Anytime you're in a battle where you're chasing another ship, you're at the disadvantage. Your shells have to travel further than theirs do respectively, just because the difference is in speed against one another. You know, a ship that's driving away, if it's at 10 kilometers, your shells probably have to go about 12 to land where they're going to be, whereas the enemy shells probably only have to go about, 8 to land where they're going to wind up.
Get on target.
So that's one of those reasons in destroyers, the first thing I do when I get into an engagement with another destroyer is start sailing away from them. Unless I'm super close, then I definitely go. And would you look at that, the Otago's turning side on. I hold my fire thinking he was going to run aground. He does. I get the first volley off. Shells are looking pretty decent. Front 2 turrets reload. They're in the air. Decent hit out of the first volley, 4,300, and, well, this one gets him. The low health Citadel never fails to reward you with the kill. And at this point, I'm on to the Hipper. Now, one set of torpedoes just went past astern of me, and I'm gonna see the other set appear right there, going towards the North Carolina. So I know I'm safe. All this Hipper can do is shoot me. So I line up, I wait. Unfortunately, the North Carolina gets killed. There's the Hipper, and pretty easy kill. Now at this point, the only ship that is left is that Tirpitz, and despite the fact that people have had some pretty amazing games, and I'm sure you've all seen them on YouTube, this is one of those battles that Tirpitz is not coming back from. Now, he is going to work down Goomba, and it's a little unfortunate, but it's just kind of how it works out. And the main reason here is, and I'd say right now is where you have to make the decision. You can see Goomba and the Tirpitz, they're getting a little close. Tirpitz obviously has torpedoes, 6 kilometers. If he gets close, he's going to use them. In fact, he's probably going for the torpedo run. Figures the game's lost, might as well get one more kill on a tier 9. And Goomba decides here that he's going to try to turn out. He times the shots, but the Tirpitz has a slightly quicker reload than a standard BB, and you can see the volley go out here any second, and side on, Goomba's ship just isn't a match. A little unfortunate, but that's how it goes. And that's one of the hard things about dealing with any battleship with torpedoes, is you have to keep yourself outside of that potential engagement range. And to do so, you have to react really early. By the time you've got a Tirpitz at 10 kilometers, it's too late. If you try to stop and go astern, you might delay how long it takes, but you're not delaying the inevitable. So I find between 12 and 15 kilometers is when you really have to think, how am I preventing this ship from getting close to me? And if you don't have a plan, you're going to get caught. Anyways, at this point, it's just a mercy kill. I'm not the one who's going to get it. I am going to fire my guns, but you can see 990 health, there he goes. Man, am I happy to have this ship. It was a long grind and a hard wait, but the Mighty Mo did not disappoint. 876,000 credits, 10,500 XP, Confederate, First Blood, devastating strike, 150,000 damage, 3 kills, 7 sits in the first game in her. And, so often you work so hard to get a ship in this game, and it kind of lets you down. And I think a big part of that is because when you get to the ship, you've still got to upgrade it, so it's not really the full potential that you always see. Well, the Missouri comes as she is, fully upgraded, everything you want, and she can punish. I didn't really even have much of an opportunity in that battle to use the radar. And that's another huge side of her, is just wrecking British cruisers and anything that hides in smoke. Top of the team, I'm not too surprised on this one. It's the Mighty Mo. I was top tier. It's kind of hard to go wrong if you don't get yourself caught. What is impressive to me is the damage I put out. And, it was a lot of big hits to a number of targets. The Iowa never seemed to do that for me. And I know there isn't anything different there, but it feels different, and maybe just mentally I'm better in the ship. And the one thing this ship certainly does do is absolutely print credits. 727,000 credits to take back to port. 10,000 experience, 16,000 on the captain. Seagal has to get trained. I didn't really put him in anything to get him ready for when I had the Missouri, but now that I do, he's the only captain that can go in it. It's only fitting. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Keep an eye out for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. And if you enjoyed it, consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys later.